Let's talk to Harold H. Peacock. And he's going to talk to us about the checkered history of Royal Salutes in Ipswich, right from when the very first one was fired in 1864. G'day, Harold H.
Hey, Danny, how you going? And happy Queen's 70th anniversary year for you.
Oh, what a great lady she has been, one of the great queens, and we wish her all the best. 95, hope she gets to 100 and hands over to Charlie boy.
Yeah, and the reason I say that, Danny, because there've been royal gun salutes across the UK this week because of the 70th anniversary, and that's what I'm going to tell you about is that right here in Ipswich.
Where they fired off a cannon and blew up Burner.
Well, there was at least one cannon. They might have to fire it, 21 times, but they are over 20 minutes. But at least they were firing it.
Let's get into it, son.
Yeah, look, as you know, well, no doubt you do know, the standard royal salute is 21 guns fired at 10-second intervals. Okay. But this week there were 41 gun salutes because some of them were fired in royal parks. Oh. And that would have been amazing. And that's what made me think about here in Ipswich, because we also have a history of providing royal salutes. But some of it isn't as glorious as what perhaps the Queen would have liked. And it all started in 1864. That's 158 years ago this week, when Ipswich's Volunteer Artillery Corps was founded. Mm-hmm. That's because there are a number of enthusiastic young lads hoping to fire the cannon to mark the turning of the sod for Queensland's first railway.
Right.
Now, the Royal Salute did happen a fortnight later, but it was feared that the life of Governor Sir George Bowen might be in danger with a rookie Ipswich gun crew. So volunteers were brought from Brisbane instead.
Right.
Now, the Ipswich Artillery Corps was being instructed at the time by Sergeant Elias Harding. Mm-hmm. The problem was that Sergeant Harding was from the Queensland Light Horse.
Right.
He didn't know much about the big guns. Now, ironically, his grandson would be killed in the First World War by serving with the Australian Field Artillery.
Right.
But anyway, there was great excitement in Ipswich when Sergeant Hawkes of the British Army's 12th Regiment came to town to give the training. Right. It was fully expected, Danny, that the Ipswich Volunteer Artillery Corps would become the best in all the colonies. And so in 1868, Governor Samuel Blackall visited Ipswich, and the salute was fired by the Ipswich Volunteers. They set up at the end of Nicholas Street, that's down between Customs House and a boarding house. It was run by a little old lady. Right. The power of the guns proved so devastating because all the crockery at the lady's house was shaken off the shelves and smashed. And the damage was estimated between £2 and £3, which was a lot of money 158 years ago.
A lot of money.
And what's more, the guns also shook down the ceiling of Customs House. Oh. And the total damage bill was huge and had to be paid out of the volunteers' own funds.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, in 1872, for Queen Victoria's birthday, the Royal Salute was planned to be fired again at Ipswich. Uh-huh. The battery of guns was there, the volunteers to fire them was ready to go, but nothing happened. And that's because someone forgot to bring the gunpowder. Don't you hate it when that happens, Danny?
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're fighting a war.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, in 1890, they were still practicing because 2 accidents happened while, during their practice. Sergeant Thomas Ibbott was standing in front of the gun, and guess what happened, Danny?
What happened?
The wheel ran over his foot. One of his toes was completely crushed, and the nail of another one severely blackened. Oh. Now, he was destined to actually die in similar circumstances because when he was working in the railway yards in Rockhampton, he was standing in front of a train.
Right.
And it knocked him down and killed him.
Oh.
But anyway, shortly after Ibbott's foot incident with the gun, something went wrong with the elevating screw in the gun. And so naturally, Sergeant Major Thomas Foreman put his finger in the hole.
Right.
Now, while he was doing that, one of the gunners leaned on the gun and Sergeant Foreman's finger got really badly crushed, almost severed. It should be noted that when Sergeant Major Foreman passed away years later, part of the cannon was actually placed on his grave. Now, I'm not sure if it was a piece with his finger on it or not, but it was an emotional moment for the family. Anyway, look, things had to improve, and so we're into the modern age now. And in 1919, a meeting was chaired by the former Ipswich Mayor, Pearson Cameron.
Yes.
And the Ipswich Royal Saluting Association was founded.
Wow.
A high-powered committee was formed. One member was James Beattie. who had been a sergeant in the Scots Guards in the Sudan War, and another was Garnet Foreman, whose father was Sergeant Major Foreman of the Finger incident 30 years earlier.
Wow.
And so on the very first occasion after the formation of the new association, a royal salute was being fired at Browns Park, North Ipswich.
Yeah.
This was for the official peace celebrations marking the end of the First World War. But true to the form of artillery in Ipswich, disaster happened because the gun exploded and a flying piece of metal smashed into two boys.
Really?
Now, don't worry, the two boys survived, and fortunately, it seems the artillery skills in Ipswich improved with the coming home of the Ipswich World War I veterans.
Yeah.
But Danny, the history of royal salutes here in Ipswich probably isn't what the Queen would like to hear about today. It's a checkered past, but it's certainly worth remembering with those incidents over the last 158 years.
He gets down and gets dirty, doesn't he, Damien?
He does.
He really knows how to bring, he gets into one area, then bang, he's got another, he's telling, bang, another. Mate, the greatest storyteller on Australian digital radio, without a doubt. You are the king.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with fingers in guns and black toenails. It's an endless supply of fantastic stories here in Ipswich.
It's got it all, and you've got a book out. What's the name of that book?
Yeah, well, Dover Court. That's about a historic house, and there's a lot of military history there as well. It's available from my website, historyouthere.com.
Historyouthere.com.
Yeah, but I also want to shout out to two of our avid listeners, Elizabeth and Angela. Now, they're actually the three by great-granddaughters of Sergeant Harding, who was that first drill sergeant back in 1864. So, yeah, you can go to historyouthere.com, but listen to us here on Saturday mornings, Danny, because there's so much history for everyone.
We are going to get a book put out by the Ipswich City Council. We've got to get on to that. You've got that book, Dover Court, isn't it?
Dover Court, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, you can buy that online straight away.
Historyouthere.com, one of the greatest storytellers in Australian digital history, radio history. His name is Harold the H. Peacock. And you have your ears tuned at 8:19 to West Bremer Radio.